My girlfriend cheated on me with a client. When I confronted her, she revealed a dark secret about her past that changed everything. Now her ex and I are unlikely friends. I, 32M, just found out my girlfriend, 29F, of 5 years, has been cheating on me with a client. I'm completely devastated and lost. To give some background, I've always been a bit of an introvert. Growing up, I was the kid who preferred staying in with a good book rather than going out to parties. This carried into my adult life, where I found solace in my work as a software engineer. I had a few relationships in college, but nothing serious. By the time I hit 27, I was so focused on my career that dating had taken a back seat. That all changed when I met Michelle. It was a random Thursday evening, and I was mindlessly scrolling through Instagram when I came across a post from a mutual friend. The photo was of 2 women at a local art gallery opening. One of them was my friend, but the other, she captivated me instantly. Her smile was radiant, and there was something about her eyes that drew me in. The caption mentioned her name, Michelle. Without thinking too much about it, which was unusual for me, I decided to message her. I kept it casual, mentioning our mutual friend and complimenting the art piece she was standing next to in the photo. To my surprise, she responded almost immediately. Michelle, as I learned, was a freelance graphic designer. Her Instagram was a showcase of her work, beautiful, vibrant designs that spoke to her creativity. We started chatting regularly, and I found myself eagerly checking my phone for her messages throughout the day. After a couple of weeks of back and forth, I gathered the courage to ask her out for coffee. Our first date was at a quirky little cafe she knew, filled with local art and the smell of freshly baked pastries. We talked for hours, losing track of time completely. I learned that Michelle had grown up in a small town not far from the city, the daughter of 2 high school teachers. She'd always been creative, and her parents had encouraged her to pursue her passion for art and design. That first date turned into a second, then a third, and before I knew it, we were officially a couple. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had found someone who truly understood me. Michelle was outgoing and social, balancing out my more introverted tendencies. She encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone while also respecting when I needed my alone time. Everything was perfect, until about 8 months into our relationship. Michelle sat me down one evening, her usual bubbly demeanor replaced with a serious, almost somber expression. She had something to confess, she said. My heart rate immediately spiked, my mind racing with possibilities. Michelle told me that when we first started talking, she had actually been in a relationship with someone else. His name was Jake, and they had been together for nearly 2 years. I was stunned. She quickly explained that her relationship with Jake had been toxic and on and off for years. According to Michelle, Jake had cheated on her multiple times, and meeting me had given her the strength to finally leave him for good. I was conflicted. On one hand, I was angry and hurt that she had essentially cheated on Jake with me. I had always prided myself on my honesty and integrity, and the idea that I had unknowingly been the other man made me feel sick. On the other hand, I could understand why she did it if her relationship was as bad as she claimed. The thought of Michelle being hurt or mistreated made my blood boil. Michelle was in tears as she explained everything. She swore to me that she had never done anything like this before and that she would never do it again. The guilt, she said, had been eating her alive. She described lying to me as the worst feeling she'd ever experienced. Looking back now, I should have ended things right then and there. But I was already head over heels for Michelle. Her tears, her promises, her explanation, it all seemed so genuine. And hadn't I encouraged her to leave a bad situation? Wasn't that a good thing? So, against my better judgment, I decided to forgive her and give our relationship a real shot. Fast forward 4 years, and things were great between us. We had moved in together after a year of dating, renting a spacious 2-bedroom apartment that gave us both room for our work, my home office and her design studio. We adopted 2 dogs, a goofy golden retriever named Max, and a sassy corgi named Bella. Our careers were both taking off. I had recently been promoted to team lead at my software company, and Michelle's graphic design business was gaining traction. To help expand her client base, Michelle occasionally offered free design work to up-and-coming entrepreneurs or small businesses. She saw it as a way to give back to the community, while also potentially landing bigger clients down the line. That's how she met Alex, 27 NM. Alex had just started a small tech startup and needed some branding work done. When Michelle showed me his Instagram, I have to admit, the guy looked like he had just stepped out of a men's fashion magazine. But I trusted Michelle completely. After all, she worked with attractive people all the time in her line of work. I didn't think twice about it. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing some changes in Michelle's behavior. She was working late more often, which wasn't unusual during busy periods, but this felt different. She seemed distracted when we were together, often checking her phone and smiling at messages. When I asked her about it, she said she was just busy with work and new clients. Then came the night that changed everything. Michelle told me she was going to a networking event for designers. I wished her luck and settled in for a quiet evening at home with the dogs. Later that night, I was absently scrolling through Instagram when I saw a post from Alex. It was a picture of him and Michelle at an upscale restaurant, clearly not a networking event. The bot caption read, "Great dinner with my favorite designer, lucky me." My heart sank. I knew something was wrong. I started digging through Michelle's social media and found more pictures of her with Alex that she hadn't shown me. They seemed way too close for just a client and designer. In one photo, they were at a local art fair, Alex's arm casually draped over Michelle's shoulders. In another, they were laughing together at what looked like a rooftop bar. When Michelle got home, I confronted her. At first, she tried to lie, saying the dinner was part of the networking event. But when I showed her the Instagram post, she broke down. Through tears, she admitted that she'd been having an affair with Alex for the past month. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. This couldn't be happening, not again. Not after what happened with Jake. I asked her why, and her answer made me feel even worse. She said she still loved me, but that Alex made her feel excited again. She said she didn't mean for it to happen, that it had started innocently enough, but then spiraled. I couldn't stand to be in the same room as her. I packed a bag, grabbed Max, Michelle was too distraught to protest, and left. I'm staying with my best friend now, trying to figure out what to do next. Michelle keeps calling and texting, begging for another chance. She says she'll cut off all contact with Alex and do whatever it takes to fix our relationship. Part of me wants to believe her. We've built a life together over the past 5 years. We have a home, our dogs, shared friends. The thought of throwing all of that away is heartbreaking. But another part of me remembers how she cheated on Jake with me, and now she's done the same thing to me with Alex. I'm starting to wonder if this is just who Michelle is, someone who's always looking for the next exciting thing, regardless of who she hurts in the process. I don't know what to do. Should I give her another chance? Is this relationship beyond saving? Has anyone been in a similar situation? Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning here. Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and to say it's been a roller coaster would be an understatement. First off, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Reading through your comments gave me the strength to face this situation head-on. After a few days of silence and ignoring Michelle's calls and messages, I decided it was time to hear her out. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a small park near our old apartment. It was a place we used to take Max and Bella for walks, which made it feel both familiar and painfully different now. When I arrived, Michelle was already there, sitting on a bench. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair messily pulled back. It was clear she hadn't been sleeping well. As soon as she saw me, she burst into tears again. For the next hour, Michelle poured, her heart out. She apologized profusely, saying how sorry she was and how much she regretted her actions. She swore that she had ended things with Alex completely and that she wanted to do whatever it took to save our relationship. As I listened to her, I couldn't shake the feeling of déjà vu. It all sounded eerily similar to what she had told me years ago about her relationship with Jake. I told her as much, and that's when things took an unexpected turn. Michelle's face changed, and she seemed to deflate before my eyes. In a quiet voice, she admitted that she hadn't been entirely truthful about her relationship with Jake. The story about him cheating multiple times? It wasn't true. In fact, Jake had never cheated on her at all. She had made up that story to justify her actions and make me more sympathetic to her situation. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. If she could lie so easily about her past, what else had she lied about? When I pressed her for more details, the floodgates opened. Michelle revealed that she had a history of cheating in her relationships. Before Jake, there had been 2 other serious boyfriends, and she had cheated on both of them as well. She tried to explain herself, saying that she always felt a need for excitement and newness in her relationships. She would fall hard and fast, convinced that this time it was true love, only to find herself feeling restless and seeking attention from other men a few months or years down the line. I asked her why she never told me any of this before. Her answer was that she was ashamed and afraid. She claimed that she really thought things would be different with me, that I was the one who would make her want to change. She said she loved me more than she had ever loved anyone, and that the thought of losing me was unbearable. As for Alex, Michelle swore that she had ended things with him completely. She showed me messages where she told him their relationship was a mistake and that she didn't want any further contact. She even offered to let me have full access to her phone and social media accounts to prove she wasn't hiding anything else. Despite all this, I found it hard to believe or trust anything she was saying. The fact that she had lied not just about the cheating, but about her entire relationship history, made me feel like I didn't even know who she really was. The Michelle I thought I knew, the sweet, honest, loving woman I had built a life with, seemed like a carefully constructed facade. I told Michelle I needed more time to think. She begged me not to give up on us, saying she would do anything to fix things, including going to couples counseling or individual therapy to work on her issues. She said she truly loved me and couldn't bear the thought of losing me. As I left the park, my mind was reeling. On the walk back to my friend's place, I found myself thinking about all the moments in our relationship that I had cherished. Our first Christmas together, when Michelle had surprised me with a hand-drawn portrait of Max. The weekend trips we used to take to the coast, just driving with no real destination in mind. The way she would leave little encouraging notes around the house when I was stressed about work. Had all of that been a lie too? Or was it possible for someone to genuinely love their partner and still cheat on them? I couldn't wrap my head around it. When I got back to my friend's place, I found myself looking at old photos of Michelle and me on my phone. There was one from our third date. We had gone to a local fair, and Michelle had convinced me to ride the Ferris wheel despite my fear of heights. The photo showed us at the top of the wheel, Michelle beaming at the camera while I looked terrified, but happy. I remembered how safe I felt with her that day, how I thought I had finally found someone I could trust completely. The irony of that memory hit me hard. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching these past few days. I've realized that even if Michelle is telling the truth now and genuinely wants to change, I'm not sure I can ever fully trust her again. The thought of always wondering if she's being faithful or if she's lying to me is exhausting. I think I've made my decision, but I'm planning to meet with Michelle one more time to discuss things face to face. I owe it to our 5 years together to end things properly if that's what I decide to do. I'll update again after that meeting. In the meantime, I'm trying to focus on taking care of myself. I've been spending a lot of time with Max, whose unconditional love has been a real comfort. I've also thrown myself into work, which helps keep my mind off things. My friend has been incredibly supportive, making sure I eat properly and encouraging me to talk about my feelings instead of bottling them up. It's a difficult time, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Thank you all again for your support. It means more than you know. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share what's happened since then. As planned, I met with Michelle for our final discussion. We chose a quiet cafe this time, somewhere we had never been together before. I arrived early and found a secluded corner where we could talk privately. When Michelle walked in, I was struck by how different she looked. The vivacious, confident woman I had fallen in love with seemed to have disappeared, replaced by someone who looked small and uncertain. She sat down across from me, her hands fidgeting nervously with her cup of coffee. I had spent days preparing what I wanted to say, but when the moment came, all my carefully planned words flew out the window. Instead, I found myself talking about the day we met, how excited I had been when she first messaged me back, how I had thought I had finally found the one. Michelle listened silently, tears streaming down her face. When I finished, she reached out as if to take my hand, then seemed to think better of it and pulled back. In a shaky voice, she told me that meeting me had been the best thing that ever happened to her, and that she hated herself for ruining it. She said she had started seeing a therapist to work on her issues with commitment and honesty. She talked about how she had always struggled with self-worth, and how she used attention from men as a way to feel validated. She swore that she wanted to change, not just for me, but for herself. As I listened to her, I felt a mix of emotions: sadness for the pain she was clearly in, anger at the hurt she had caused me, and a lingering affection for the woman I had loved for 5 years. But underneath it all was a sense of resolve. I knew what I had to do. I told Michelle that while I appreciated her honesty and her willingness to work on herself, I couldn't continue our relationship. The trust was too broken, and her pattern of behavior was too concerning for me to overlook. I explained that it wasn't just about the cheating, it was about the repeated lies and the fact that I felt like I never really knew the real her. Michelle broke down completely at this point. She begged me to reconsider, promising again that she would change. But I stood firm in my decision. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, watching someone I cared about in so much pain and knowing I was the cause of it. But I also knew it was necessary, for both of us. After our talk, I started the process of fully separating our lives. We had been living together for 3 years, so there was a lot to untangle. Luckily, we were renting our apartment, so we didn't have to deal with selling a house. We agreed that I would move out since Michelle's home office was set up there, and it would be harder for her to relocate her business. The hardest part was deciding what to do about Max and Bella. We had adopted them together, and both loved them dearly. In the end, we agreed to a sort of joint custody arrangement. I would take Max, and Michelle would keep Bella, with the agreement that we could arrange visits or dog swaps if we wanted to see the other dog. Packing up my things was a surreal experience. Every object seemed to hold a memory: the coffee mug Michelle had bought me on our first weekend getaway, the throw blanket we used to curl up under for movie nights, the framed photo of us at my sister's wedding. It was like dismantling the life we had built together, piece by piece. As I was going through our shared bookshelf, I found an old sketchbook of Michelle's. Curiosity got the better of me, and I flipped it open. Inside were dozens of sketches, some of landscapes, some of random objects, but many of them were of me. There was one of me working at my computer, my brow furrowed in concentration. Another showed me playing with Max in the park, laughing as he jumped up to catch a frisbee. The last one, dated just a few months ago, was a detailed portrait of me sleeping. Looking at these drawings, I felt a pang of sadness for what could have been. They were a reminder that despite everything, there had been real love and affection in our relationship. But they also reinforced that I was making the right decision. I couldn't base my future on memories and what-ifs. Once I finished moving out, I decided to take some time for myself. I took a 2-week vacation from work and went on a solo road trip with Max. We drove up the coast, stopping at beaches and small towns along the way. It was exactly what I needed: time to clear my head, reflect on everything that had happened, and think about what I wanted for my future. During my trip, I got a message from Alex, Michelle's affair partner. He apologized for his role in the situation and told me that he had no idea Michelle was in a relationship when they got involved. He said that once he found out the truth, he immediately ended things with her. While I appreciated his apology, I told him I didn't want to discuss the situation further and wished him well. When I returned from my trip, I felt refreshed and ready to move forward with my life. I threw myself into work and started reconnecting with friends I had somewhat neglected during my relationship with Michelle. I also decided to start volunteering at a local animal shelter, which has been incredibly rewarding. It hasn't all been smooth sailing. There are still moments when I miss Michelle and our life together. Sometimes I'll catch myself about to tell her about something funny that happened at work, or I'll see something in a store window that I know she would love. But then I remind myself of all the lies and betrayal, and I know I made the right choice. I'm taking things one day at a time, focusing on healing and rediscovering who I am outside of that relationship. It's not always easy, but I'm hopeful for the future. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my breakup with Michelle, and I wanted to give one final update on how things have been going. Life has settled into a new normal for me. I'm still at the same job, but I've taken on some new projects that have been keeping me busy and challenged. One of these projects involves developing software for local animal shelters to help streamline their adoption processes. It's been incredibly rewarding to combine my professional skills with my love for animals. I've also started taking evening classes in photography. It's something I've always been interested in, but never had the time to pursue seriously when I was with Michelle. Now, I find myself spending weekends exploring the city with my camera, seeing familiar places through a new lens. As for Michelle, we've had minimal contact since the breakup. We occasionally text to arrange swapping the dogs, but that's about it. From what I've heard through mutual friends, she's been struggling a bit. Apparently, the fallout from her affair with Alex affected her business. She lost a few clients who heard about what happened and didn't want to work with her anymore. Part of me feels bad for her, but I also know that these are the consequences of her actions. I ran into Jake, Michelle's ex before me, at a local coffee shop a few weeks ago. It was a bit awkward at first, but we ended up talking for a while. He filled me in on some details about his relationship with Michelle that she had never told me. It was eye-opening and reinforced that I had made the right decision in ending things. Jake and I have since met up a couple more times. It's a strange friendship, bonded by our shared experience, but I've found it oddly comforting. On a more positive note, I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I've met a few interesting people. There's one woman, Sarah, who I've been on a few dates with. She's a veterinarian, and we met when I took Max in for a checkup. It's still early days, but I'm enjoying getting to know her. I'm taking things slow and being upfront about my past experiences. I'm also being more cautious and paying attention to any red flags, a hard lesson learned from my time with Michelle. Max and Bella are doing well with our shared custody arrangement. It's bittersweet when we swap them, but I'm glad we found a solution that works for everyone. Max seems to have adjusted well to our new living situation. He's become my constant companion, always ready for a walk or a game of fetch when I need a break from work. Last weekend, I finally finished going through the last of the boxes from my old apartment with Michelle. It was tough, sifting through all those memories, but it also felt cathartic. I donated a lot of things, keeping only what truly mattered to me. It felt like closing a chapter and making room for new experiences. I've also been working on forgiving Michelle. Not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind. I realized that holding on to anger and resentment was only hurting me in the long run. It doesn't mean I excuse what she did, but I'm trying to let go of the negative emotions associated with it. Overall, I'm in a much better place now than I was 6 months ago. The pain of Michelle's betrayal has faded, and while I don't think I'll ever be glad it happened, I can appreciate the lessons I learned from the experience. I'm more aware of my own boundaries and what I want in a relationship. I've also learned the importance of maintaining my own identity and interests within a partnership. To anyone going through a similar situation, I want to say that it does get better. It takes time, and there will be tough days, but you'll come out stronger on the other side. Trust your instincts, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to put yourself first. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and kind words have meant more than you know.